Howdy folks, and welcome to the video for the British Tier 2 Tech Tree Destroyer, the Medea. So, as with all Tier 2 destroyers, they are doomed to be compared to the V-25, and I think the Medea holds its own. I'm not sure it's a better destroyer than the V-25, but it's got most of the important parts down pat. It's got high damage on the torps, 10,000. It's got pretty good concealment. It's got smokes. It's got adequate guns, nothing special, but they never are at this tier. They're not bad. The main thing that you're giving up from the V-25 is you only have 4 torpedoes instead of 6. And also the reload is not as good. And at this tier, since your main job is just eliminating as much hit points worth of bots as you can, as quickly as you can, torpedo DPM is incredibly important. So in that sense, I don't think the Medea is a good trade. I don't think it's worth it. But the one thing that it does get is these British style short duration smokes. And so I want to spend the majority of the video talking about that. This is going to be a pretty good example of the Medea's strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to get 6 kills, use my standard tactic of defending the base. We're going to point out the opposing team, yada yada, sis boom ba, nothing to see here, move along, just another tier 2 game. So it's a good framework for me to talk about the difference between these short duration smokes and quote unquote regular smokes, long duration static smokes. So of course, there are some advantages to long duration smokes, but as a general rule, when I play Destroyer, I find these short duration smokes to be incredibly useful, and I think most people would agree. And so the question is why and how do you use them? And I'll talk about that as much as I can in 5 minutes, admitting, of course, that I'm certainly not an expert at this game, but this is just my take on it from years of experience playing a lot of Destroyers. I think when you think about the long duration smokes, the thing that long duration smokes do, of course, is allow you to stay in one place hidden for a long period of time. Everybody knows you're there. Everybody knows you're in that smoke cloud. They just can't do anything about it because they can't see you. Now, when would that be useful? Well, obviously it's useful when being in a specific spot continues to be useful for a long period of time, and the enemy has no way to see inside that smoke cloud. So they're definitely not useful for things like running away or genuinely having the enemy not know where you are, or situations where there's a lot of radar or hydro or people are going to rush you. So there's a lot of times when the long duration smokes just kind of don't really work. When do they work? Well, I think there's 2 main ways that long duration smokes can work for a destroyer. One obvious example is when it's not you that you're using the smoke for, which is a classic team play destroyer move, which I totally respect and is awesome when it works out. But unless you're in a division or you're in some kind of setting where you know, like clan battles, where you know that you can count on the people around you and communicate with them, it's really hard to make that work consistently. So, okay, but just to put that on the record, that is one good use of them, right? The other one is when it's useful for you to just be in one spot for a long time. And the obvious example of that is second line destroyers and gunboats that use the smoke so they can farm with their guns. So I'm talking Groningen, Friesland style, maybe Forrest Sherman. In that case, under certain situations, when you find the right setup, just like I'm doing right now, right? I'm just sitting in this smoke and I'm shooting at this cruiser and he can't see me. And that's great. That's great when it works out. I've already mentioned, though, I'm not a huge fan of second line destroyers. I won't go into all that, give my speech again, but there's lots of other videos you can watch of mine where I talk about second line destroyers and the problems with them. The short version is I feel like second line destroyers take up a destroyer slot, but don't provide the most important destroyer function, which is things like spotting. Anyway, I won't go into all that again. Outside of those 2 examples, like you're smoking up someone else or you're planning on farming out of the smoke, the duration of the smoke is actually not terribly important. In fact, sometimes it can be a detriment because it's nice for you to be able to see again. I mean, remember, that's the thing about smokes is you can't spot, you can't see out of a smoke either. So in most cases, you want the smoke for a limited amount of time. You're planning on moving on, like you're hiding your escape, right? You're running away and you're using the smoke to cover your rear, or you got to reposition, you got to get to an island. There's some reason why you temporarily want to be hidden, but you don't need to stay in that position. You're going to move, which is why I love exhaust smokes. It's why I love the Palo Emilio, because combining a destroyer with an exhaust smoke is just a fundamentally awesome thing, because now you get the best of both worlds, right? You're hidden, but you're also moving at full speed. Amazing. Another reason I like the Kitakami as well. So what that means is basically these short duration smokes are just better. They're better for two reasons. One is because I actually think that sometimes having less time in the smoke is just better. And then also, as a compensation, quote unquote, for the short duration smokes, you get more of them, which is huge, right? And you get a reduced cooldown. So you can make that decision to go invisible more frequently. There's also kind of a third, what I would call like a bonus thing, which is the temptation when you have a ship, a destroyer especially, with these long duration smokes, is to try to use them. You start to think, well, maybe even if you're not really in a second line DD that's designed for farming, you think to yourself, well, look, this is an amazing opportunity. I can do some damage with my guns. Yeah, they're not that great, but free damage. I'm just going to use this smoke and I'm going to park in it and I'm going to farm with HE. And of course, sometimes that is a valid strategy, but the problem is for every time that works out, there's another time where you don't notice that somebody has radar, or you're not thinking about like a long distance hydro, or you just get rushed by someone and you just get stuck. Also, while you're doing this cool farming of HE out of your smoke, you're not doing the other things that you should be doing. Like you're not spotting. I mean, maybe your team needs you. Maybe your team needs you somewhere else. It's just not what you're good at. And the damage that you can do with your destroyer guns just isn't going to move the needle. I mean, of course, that's not true in every destroyer. Some destroyers specialize in those kinds of things, right? And I get that. But for your average destroyer, like if I'm playing Shimikaze, I do not need to be sitting in my smoke and just farming out of it. Now, again, are there exceptions? Of course, there's exceptions to every rule in this game. That's what makes it interesting. If you have a very low health target near you and you can remove them from the board, or if you just don't have anything better to do and the team really genuinely doesn't need your spotting, then I get it, of course. But most of the time when I sit in a long duration smoke and farm out of it, I'm making a mistake for my team, which is why I find ships like the Medea interesting. I like these short duration smokes. They're not as helpful at tier 2, but it's good practice for thinking about how to use smokes at the later tiers. And I find that to be the most interesting thing about the Medea. Other than that, it's just a solid all-around destroyer. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.